Hello and welcome to the roundtable for the 2019 China's political season, also known as the Two Sessions. And I think this has almost become a tradition for us to have a roundtable like this, which started from last year. But this year is something new about this roundtable is we not only have reporters from CGTN, CCTV, which are my colleagues. Actually, this year we have invited guests from other major media outlets to join us to share their experiences, to share their thoughts on the coverage of this political season. So now please introduce the lady and also the gentleman here that's going to participate in the talk with us today. The first is a friend from afar, so welcome. Hi. Nathan Keen is my colleague from DC. He's a DC-based correspondent and also known as a White House correspondent. So a very warm welcome, Nathan.
Thank you. We miss you in D.C.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We miss you in China.
Thank you.
And also the gentleman sitting close to Nathan is Mr. Laiming, and he is a reporter at CRI, China Radio International, and he also used to work in D.C. But we never see each other, huh?
We never saw each other. Although I think I saw you at the SEO summit in Qingdao, and then later on in Shanghai for the Import Expo.
That's correct, because we're all being involved into those major events. And also this beautiful lady sitting next to me is Miss Wenwen, and she's a reporter at the Global Times, which is also a very famous newspaper, huh, Wenwen?
Yeah.
So very warm welcome to all of you. Just briefly, first of all, because I know all of you are involved in the Two Sessions, and also Nathan come all the way from the States to China here this time. So tell me a little bit about what you're going to do, how you're going to cover this political session, which has already kicked off today, because with the opening session of the second session of the 13th National Committee of CPPCC. So Nathan, why don't we start with you?
Well, first of all, get a pair of good shoes, because with the two sessions, there's lots of walking around. The Great Hall of the People is a great hall, and
it is.
With over 100 rooms and staircases and 3,000 reporters, it's very difficult to. I remember my first one; I felt very lost. Luckily, I have colleagues like yourself and others that cover major Chinese political events all the time. So we work very closely with our Chinese colleagues. But when you're from a different country and you report to a different country, obviously you have a different perspective. So obviously here, my perspective is going to be slightly foreign in terms of what the CPPCC and the MPC are going to decide, which affects international agenda. And obviously, at this time of trade tensions with the US and other flashpoints, it's going to be very interesting to look at the draft foreign investment law, which is making its way through. We had comments already from the first press conference from Vice Minister Guo on the trade tensions. Good progress was the quote we all took away. So, all this, and potentially leading to a meeting between President Xi Jinping and President Trump at the end of the two sessions, essentially, a few days afterwards.
We don't know that for sure yet.
No, of course not, although the Americans are making a lot of noise suggesting they want to have that meeting. But as we know from Hanoi, we don't back what the US says all the time. But so that's really my backdrop. But also, what's really interesting for me is that when I'm here, I can actually make contact with lots of Chinese experts that I speak to on the phone or via email. We can grab a drink, we can maybe have some dinner, and really talk about China, the challenges, the opportunities, the victories, which for me is really, really important. Because, I'm based in Washington, D.C., but I report for a Chinese network. So I really get to do my homework when I'm here.
Right, you have to really understand China. And I want to follow up about what you said about your shoes, because in Chinese, when we say covering the two sessions, we not only say covering two sessions, we say actually in Chinese is 跑两会, right? So if we transliterate, the literal translation of that is running through the two sessions. I think that means a lot, because the area is big, you have to running through everything because there's so many occasions, different events. So you're right, it's very wise to have a good a pair of comfort shoes.
I see your shoes.
That was the lesson I learned last time. Last time I bought some very nice but not comfortable shoes.
Okay.
You're from Raisa.
What about you? Because I'm very familiar with your voices. We will listen to like CRI, and you have been doing the voice. You have been doing the lives for so many major Chinese news events. So what's your plan for this time?
Well, I have been assigned to cover the two sessions, mainly the NPC sessions. basically major events. For instance, the opening and the closing, and then there are some other high-profile events. For instance, the foreign minister's press briefing, and then we have the premiere coming out after the closing ceremony.
Exactly.
So I think one of the most important events about the two sessions, especially the MPC, would be the government work report. The Premier would deliver that work report in Chinese to the plenum of the MPC. And also CPPCC members, they're invited to attend too. And what we do is we cover the event live. And since they don't offer English interpretation at the event, we at English Service, CRI, we have to sort of voice the entire report. So a lot of effort was put into getting familiar with the script, with the report beforehand, and doing notes. We know this year our Premier speaks very fast, so we have to try all kinds of ways to catch up.
Okay, cool. But it's like he's doing a promotion for CII. You can also follow us on CGTN for all the major events happening at
We're all one big happy family, right?
Exactly. We become big family. But also, sorry, I forgot to mention that for our viewers who are watching us on various platforms, you can also feel free to follow us on other platforms, including YouTube, Twitter, Sina Weibo, CGTN app, and CGTN website. Well, that's a long list of it. Hopefully, I get them all. And also, finally, to you, Wenwen. What about you? I know you work for the commentary sector for Global Times, so maybe your job is a little bit different from us, following daily news. So tell us a little bit more about what you are going to do for the two sessions.
Mostly, I cooperate with my colleagues who report on the scene. So I will watch behind the scene and to observe the trends and to see what's the hot issues at the annual two sessions. For example, the Xinjiang questions and the Tibet questions, mostly relating to international relations. And I also facilitate articles from foreign and Chinese experts to ask about their views and to ask them to write articles for my section.
Like commentary stuff.
Yes,
because when we know for this year, like for each year, we have different focuses, different emphasis. For this year, we have so many issues that we need to pay great attention. For instance, the new law that is supposed to be, we don't know, were deliberated by the lawmakers about the investment, the foreign investment.
Yeah, foreign investment.
Yeah, and also the China's economic growth, because now it's going through this transition period, also impacted by the China-U.S. trade, as well as, there's still internal pressure as well. So there's so many hot issues going on.
Yeah, that's the big thing that a lot of international people are looking for, is the growth rate for next year, and we're all expecting it to be, between 6 and 6.5%. Quality growth rather than the sort of export-driven growth and infrastructure growth that we've seen before. That's something we're really sort of looking out for, and the devil's going to be in the detail there, I think.
Right, so that what you will be paying the most attention to, right?
Yeah, because the China growth story is changing. I mean, a lot of people know that it's changing in terms of quality of growth rather than the pace of growth. But there are some challenges, especially with debt.
You mean the local debt?
Yes, exactly, at provincial level. So, a lot of foreign attention is going to be on that. And also because, it comes at a time where we're seeing growth slowing in Europe, in Latin America. US has been going very well, but there are also signs
it's like a worldwide slowing down now.
Well,
at least the momentum is not that strong.
Yeah, it's not overall. So, and as we know, China accounts usually between 30 and 40% of global GDP consumption. So it's a very important number, but also the reasoning behind the numbers is going to be very important.
Right, but you can get that from the work report delivered by the Premier on the 5th, which is the
Sure, but it's also what people say in the corridors, isn't it? A lot of people do come in and have their own opinion from the provinces, for example. And what was really nice today is to see all the different CPPCC members coming in and seeing all the local TV stations, talk to their guys about what their provinces are doing, both in terms of consulting, but also the state of the economy, and et cetera, et cetera.
On that sense, I'd like to know more about what representatives from my hometown, Jiangxi province, would like to propose at these two sessions. Because here, more as a personal experience, I I grew up in a very remote part of the country and haven't been able to really know the outside world until, let's say, 17 when I leave home to attend college. And that was the first time I took the train. So I'd like to know what they have in store to really promote connectivity with other parts of the country and perhaps with the world, and what they would do in terms of really bolstering education in my province.
Right. This is about connectivity. It's not only the connectivity about infrastructure building, but also it's like something spiritual, people-to-people exchanges, the improvement of education, etc. So about you, Wenwen, so from the commentary side, what do you think, what kind of opinion do you think that will get the attention of your readers, not only in China, but also, from other parts of the world?
I think the military budget is of
that's very
focus.
Sensitive.
Yeah. Because China watchers all over the world see China not only through the economic perspective, but also from the military and strategic perspective.
Yeah.
So because China is growing stronger and stronger, and so its military development also catches a lot of attention. Thus, will China use its military power to lead the world, or even as some Western rhetoric says, to control some parts of the world? Yeah. So.
What specifically are you looking out for in terms of military expenditure? I know Global Times has a nationalist reputation globally. So, I mean, you guys have a lot of military opinion writers, for example. Actually, I read a lot of, I find it very useful to get a sort of take on military thinking and nationalist thinking. What are you going to be looking at in terms of the military expenditures this year, and what are you expecting?
I think
just from my point of view,
I think we will make comparison with the military budgets of previous years, and to see if it is bigger than previous years or it is lower than previous years, and make some predictions. Yeah.
I think that's a very you're already successful in that topic because you got the attention of Nathan, right?
No, honestly, I mean, it's and I hate to say this, but actually, Western journalists will admit this. They rely too heavily on the Global Times sometimes when it comes to trying to work out what Chinese military thinking is.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got a big audience.
Yeah, I know. Because sometimes when my newspaper runs military stories, it usually gets the most attention.
Wow.
Yeah, and
it's only maybe you got too many guy viewers. Like for ladies.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
Having had the honor of being on Chinese ships, I've seen plenty of female Chinese sailors and PLA officers. So I think women are getting more and more well represented in the Chinese military.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I also want to ask you, because for a big part of reporting the 2 sessions about interviewing the NPC deputies as well as CPPCC members to talk with them about their proposals, their motions, their suggestions, etc. This is like a major part for covering this. And for instance, I talked to a CPPCC member who's the CEO and founder of SOGO. So SOGO, right? And I think Wang Xiaochuan, for him, his suggestions last year is about using the tax cut to incentivizing the scientific research, because he said China spent over $1 trillion each year in scientific research, but the transfer rate is not that high, especially when it compared to developing nations. And he said one of the main reasons is that we spend the money too early before it could really come out with something tangible where it has the commercial benefits. That's why he said we should just prolong, or we should delay this process and until it commercializes, or until there's some tangible scientific research result come out, and then we gave them a tax cut as a preferential policy. And that was really successful actually last year. That was marked as one of the most important proposals by the government, and has already been converted into the articles of policies that has been implemented in some universities and research institutions. So I think this is like a very fast process for us now to witness the changes brought by those CPPCC members and NPC deputies. So what about you guys? Have you talked to some of the deputies members about their proposals, or have you read anywhere what Anything interesting you like to share?
I want to follow up on what you said because
Sure.
science and technology is huge internationally too.
I know.
Exactly, and it's funny what you're talking about, not front loading the money, because actually when it comes to the industries of tomorrow like AI, 5G. Oh, by the way, we did a broadcast today using a 5G network.
How was that? It looked amazing.
Apparently it went well, so it didn't break down. So yay, go 5G. But there has been a lot of front loading of investment when it comes to like 5G and AI. As there is this sort of competitive feeling. So that's something I really want to speak about. You're talking about who you want to speak to. Obviously we're all going to be chasing after NPC members. We're going to be we want to talk to Wang, of course. That's really important. But for me, it's the CPPCC members who are at the coalface, if you like, of the new China. I mean, what a year for space in China, for China, right? So I'd love to talk to the engineers who helped with the far side of the moon landing. That sort of thing to me sort of is very valuable in terms of learning about where China is scientifically, but also psychologically and in sort of development and where it wants to go next, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Right, that's amazing.
But speaking of ordinary people, I think what we are interested in from the English service of CRI is we actually have some reporter going after policy makers or decision makers who are going to propose stuff like things that were going to be related to delivery guys. We know it's important to the part of the economy that's pushing the entire country moving forward, and it's also essential. They play the essential part in making sure you don't starve when you don't feel like cooking for yourself, that sort of thing. So, but the situation here in China is such that sometimes they are not given the most preferential policies for instance, in contractual affairs. For instance, some delivery guys, they are not paid enough. Some delivery guys feel the pressure to complete as many orders as they can, and some delivery guys, they sign a contract that may not entail social welfare benefits, that sort of thing. We look into whether there are NPC deputies or CPPCC members who will propose something in that regard.
Right. And that's actually an fast increasing number of group of people. Have you ever tried the delivery service here in China?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually better than anywhere else on the planet. Actually, did a story.
That's true. That's not a joke. It's true.
No,
right?
it's true.
Yeah.
And actually in Guangzhou, we followed a delivery guy for a day.
Oh, wow.
What's the app called? I'm Hungry.
Laiming.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, that's one of the most popular.
Yeah,
right?
and it was interesting because he'd worked in a factory before, and guaranteed wage and all that sort of stuff, had benefits, but really enjoyed the flexibility and the freedom of this new life he had. Apparently his dating life had improved dramatically. But what was really interesting is that his parents felt that he needed more of a safety net and to get married and to think about the future as well. So it's really interesting you come up with this because society is changing so rapidly in China, and yet every year you get these groups coming together to try and tackle with these problems as they come up, essentially.
Yeah, to think that the only thing they can get from doing the job is to get familiar with a neighborhood that they not necessarily live in, and what they learn is just everything about the neighborhood. They don't accumulate anything that they can use to progress in their career. So, and even though they could make a lot of money when they're young, when they're quick on their feet, what happens later when they grow older?
Or if they get an injury, or
it's not that sustainable career path at the current stage.
And not to mention,
well, they can be, but it's just you need the rules of the road.
So that's why they need lawmakers too.
It cannot be. I mean, with the advent of AI technology, I mean, already we're talking about delivery companies exploring with
drones,
self-driving cars, and then so drones.
Wow. Maybe in the future we will be replaced, but not that soon, huh? Because they have the AI newsreader.
Xinhua have I hate to freak you out, but they have a
AI
anchor, right?
Right. No, because I told you the member that I interviewed was the company who generated that AI, who worked with Xinhua.
Are you worried about that?
I asked him, was he worried? He said no. He said like man is still like the boss of the machines, the robot, everything. So
I think I agree.
It's not something that it's gonna happen in the near future.
But I remember visiting one Chinese factory, car maker who makes the Trumpchi, the Trumpchi car, the Trump car. It's called Trumpchi. I think it means legend here in
传奇.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it was a fascinating, great car. It drives just like my Subaru back home. But I said, what's the future? And he said, we're going to turn the lights off in the factory because robots don't need light. And I just thought that was amazing.
They don't need food, they don't need water,
Right.
they don't need sleep.
You know, but think of the assembly line workers. Think of people who've been working in car plants for all that time. So, I mean, the US is going through the same thing. Automation is going to be a huge problem. But,
and AI is a big topic as well because now China is leading the world in the application of AI, not the research of AI, but the application of AI. So that's why when this technology, when this, is going too far, they need the laws or they need some new policy to accommodate, right? To follow that. And also during my interview with the CPPCC member I was talking about, and there was this new proposal he's going to bring with him this time is to calling for the government to have a wider access for the big data. Because for China, this is actually one of the advantages we have, is to have a huge population. And this
huge
is
market.
Right, the market. It's not the market. It's only, and it's more about the big data. Like he can make analysis of big data, and that's what will driven the future of AI. And that's, I think that's also important. What about you, Wenwen?
Yeah, I take notice of the wide use of AI, and I saw from the internet that Robin Li, the founder of Baidu, his proposal is that he is trying to promote the ethics of application of AI, because recently we saw news that netizens even can replace the face of an actor on
Deep fake.
On the
yes, I tried that. It's so
TV
funny.
series.
Like each other, we can just trade our face with like a virtual image or something.
Yeah, so this will raise a lot of moral problems. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Robin Li is in a position to argue for changes in the big data landscape, in the sense that here in this country we have Alibaba, we have Baidu, we have Tencent. We call them BAT, but they are not together. They don't share data amongst themselves. When you do a search, on Baidu, the search engine, you don't find results that's on WeChat. You don't find results that's in, let's say, so they're separated. And that's not exactly helpful or conducive to pushing the technology ahead.
It's so fascinating, the debates that are going on here with technology, and then where I live in the US, where the hands-off approach, and the lack of regulation has really create some deep problems with fake news, with incitement, racial divisions, and the like. So, China's the other way. So it's really interesting to see this debate. I don't think 5 years ago people would have turned around and said, "Oh, Chinese internet, let's have a debate." The US is always going to lead. But I spent time at WeChat, for example, a couple of years ago. They're very conscious about putting down rumors and fake news and stuff like that.
Right.
That is now sort of proving itself to be a valid argument on the internet. It's very interesting.
Yeah, actually, it's a very helpful service on WeChat. If you somehow accidentally stumble into posts that may contain fake news, later on, when that piece of news has been proven to be fake, you get a notice on WeChat that you, on this day, you read this story and this is wrong, and here's the real information.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very helpful, I think.
Can you imagine Facebook doing that? No, go on.
Not quite.
I think Facebook is also doing something to handle the problem of fake news.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's kind of reactive. But what's really, in terms of the legislative session, I don't know whether you guys can ask me questions. I've seen a lot of the sort of hype about CPPCC suggestions, and obviously it's a very broad consultative body, 34 different disciplines, all this sort of stuff. I know the numbers, but you're Chinese. Does the suggestion, does the bottom-up approach work? Does it actually lead to changes in society?
Very interesting question. I haven't had a chance to talk to an NPC deputy or a CPPCC member due to the nature of my assignment. I do live shows, but we do have boots on the ground. We do have reporters who have done interviews with the CPPCC members. And actually, just the day before yesterday, Shi Yigong, one of the CPPCC members, he came to our studio and he shared some insight into how they operate. Actually, he and a group of other scientists or experts, they were responsible for putting up proposals when it comes to regarding the clean air quality in Beijing, that sort of thing. There actually is a detailed process. Once they submitted their proposal, they get follow-ups from whoever they work with, and they are constantly in contact with. They're being called, they've been sent letters, and they always get a written response. And also, judging by the air quality that we see in these years, we certainly see that the suggestions or proposals were taken seriously.
Because there's an improvement.
There's improvement, as we all can see.
I come about once a year, so it's kind of nice always to...
Yeah, you can really feel it, right?
Yeah, you can really feel it, yeah.
Right.
And I think a good sign is that the political atmosphere in China has been improving. I think when I worked in the journalism field during my early years, I often saw the Western media saying China's political two sessions are rubber stamp. Yeah, and but nowadays I think more and more members of the CPPCC and deputies to the NPC are prone to talk about their opinions, and they are trying hard to push their opinions to be implemented. I think it's a gradual and good improvement.
It's a very different system, isn't it? To get
Yeah,
your head
it's very
around
different from what they have in the States.
Exactly, or British parliamentary system. It really is different.
Yeah.
But it kind of looks similar, so you think it's going to be similar. You know what I mean?
But it's very, very different. And I agree with Wenwen. I think it's improving a lot, because usually we say, like, we're running through the two sessions, also include running after the CPPCC members, NPC deputies, like especially for those famous ones, it will be like surrounded by so many people. Yeah. But starting from last year, like before, we have the corridor for the ministers, right? But starting from last year, we have the corridor for the CPPCC member, NPC deputy, and the journalists can feel free to raise questions and they can just answer it. So it's not only the NPC deputy or the CPPCC member then themselves are trying to make their voice heard, even though maybe it's even different from the mainstream voice. They're just so brave, and also that's because the efforts by the government, I think, is also become more transparent. They're also become more confident, right, to show what is really going on in here.
Yeah, I like that. You call it the ministerial corridor or the members' corridor. It's like a stakeout, isn't it? We call it a stakeout in Western media, where it's not a press conference, but someone's going to walk past a microphone and you can ask questions. I think that's good, and I noticed that there was only one corridor last year, and there's going to be two this year. So I mean, I'm all for it.
It's
three. Sorry.
You can,
And it beats chasing people around. No matter how good your shoes.
That's much better.
And I do realize there's a tendency to sort of respond to Westerners or foreigners who want to know, who are interested in what's going on in China. Because I think based on my experience with doing live shows about NBC, we used to do this old-fashioned way. We just go in and we read the script and that's it. Nowadays we see, and yes, actually some part of the script they are not exactly translated to perfection. Some of the things, as an English learner, I would like to do changes, but obviously they have the political reasons.
Right.
But in recent years, we see a lot more attention given to the text, or the translated text, the English text of it. And Nathan, you covered the 19th Party Congress. You must be aware that once you stepped into the session, you can get the English script
like
or other foreign languages.
This is for the report from
Chairman
Wang.
I read that one today.
Right?
And you're absolutely right. The 19th Party Congress was incredible. Not only did we have the speeches, but I was lucky enough to be invited for the announcement of the Politburo Standing Committee. And within seconds of that committee being unveiled, we had full biographies of all the members, really in-depth stuff.
In
and
English
it was
and Chinese,
and in English.
Yeah.
And it was so useful for our reporting.
Exactly. I remember that.
So things have been changing, yeah.
But I'm just curious about you guys, because you will be talking to a lot of NPC deputies, CPPCC members. Who do you want to talk the most? Nathan?
I'll talk to Li Keqiang.
No. No, how many deputies and members?
Yeah, I know.
No, but if you, okay, let's say if it's Premier, if it's his press conference, and if you're that lucky one to be picked to ask a question, what are you going to ask?
I mean, I'd talk about the economy. You know, one of the headlines that you see more and more in the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times is China's slowest growth since. Well, of course, it's going to be the slowest growth because every time it slows down, it's going to be the slowest because it's been growing so quickly.
Right.
So I'd like to sort of get beyond the headline and talk about where is the growth. Where are we seeing the growth that needs to sustain what we've seen in the Chinese economy, both geographically and in terms of industry type? That's what I'd like to see. And also, I'd like to speak to Yang Jiechi about foreign affairs. I mean, he's always very open. I think it's a really nice end of the session that you have this sort of globalistic outlook. Long may it continue. You know, especially about China's position in the world. There has been a lot of misunderstandings, but, you know, we still have this debate globally about whether China is a stakeholder or a revisionist or a bit of both. So it's always good to sort of test, you know, where China feels itself is going at these very important times.
So you still have this great passion for talking to Chinese senior officials?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Great passion. Yeah, I can tell
of
that.
Course.
Briefly, what about you, Laiming? Who do you want to talk the most and why?
I'd like to
Briefly.
talk to a representative from my part of the country, in Jiangsu province, because I want to find out what's keeping them from developing on par with, say, neighboring provinces like Jiangsu and Zhejiang. What's keeping them from falling behind, and what kind of help they need, policy-wise or infrastructure-wise. So I'd like to know that.
Because you think you're the lucky kid who left your province and got into the big city and have a stable job and, you know, witness all those big moments. But maybe there's so many kids who are still staying in that.
A lot of my former classmates, they nonetheless stayed in my hometown, and they have to find a living there. And I find myself having to do a lot of catching up after I left the province and settled down in Shanghai and then in Beijing. And that catching up process is tough. I'd like to shorten that period for those who come after me.
Yeah, I totally understand. What about you, Wenwen? Do you want to talk to some handsome guy, or who do you want to talk to?
Yes, I'd like to talk to Jackie Chan.
Oh, I just heard that.
Sorry.
You forgot that? Okay, now I remember it.
And Yang.
Yeah, his proposal this year, the same as last year, is to push forward poverty elevation. Yeah, from the celebrities.
Oh.
Yeah.
You mean they turned Jackie Chan down last year?
No, I mean it could be a focus on the similar topic, but there will be new details, like new specifics. So
I was just wondering who was brave enough.
A lot of the members do that.
Yeah, I think Jackie Chan has been involved a lot in Chinese political affairs, and the poverty elevation is one part of it. But I think Chinese celebrities are always involved in different scandals, and so I'm
That varies
doubtful.
from case to case.
Yeah,
Depends on which papers you read.
some of them, and I'm doubtful about how they can engage in such a difficult but important social issue.
Right, because they have influence and they can use their image, their influence to not only to have an impact among their fans, right? Even on a larger audiences. Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing that globally more and more, aren't we, with the sort of rise of the social media star and the all-pervasiveness of entertainment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, gentlemen and the beautiful lady, for sharing with us your valuable thoughts and also interesting experiences. And I look forward to having more of that in our roundtable in the following days. So remember to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and CGTN apps, CGTN website. That's a long list of it still. And thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for sharing. So have a good night and bye.
We ask.
We listen.
We talk to lawmakers
And average people alike.
We report.
We probe. We interpret the new laws and policies coming out of China's top legislature.
CGTN is fully geared up to offer you a front row seat at the annual sessions of China's top legislative
And advisory bodies, the NPC and CPPCC.